My name's Ian Warner, and today we are talking about the things you need to achieve habit mastery. Now, obviously, I have a course that I created called Habit Mastery, and I just want to run through some of the real building blocks that make the core of the course, because really a lot of what I talk about throughout this podcast is in the course. So you've already had a lot of insight on it if you've watched or if you've not watched, if you listened to all of the episodes of the podcast. But what the course really does is it takes out all the fluff and just gets straight to the point on what you have to do to master your habits. Now, one of the things that's important to understand is why mastering your habits is even important in the first place. And everyone has their own reasons for coming to wanting to learn about habits. But I think one of the biggest things that people fail to see with habits is that it is truly like the building block to being successful in anything, to accomplish any goal, to accomplish any mission. Like, they all fit into each other. And that's why that's one of the first things that I talk about in the course is the mission, goals, and habits. Because you can have a big mission, you can have the biggest goals you want to have, right? And that's what most people do. Most people are really good, not necessarily with the mission, but they're really good at having goals they set, things they want to accomplish in 2020, in the next 3 years, 5 years, whatever. But actually building a roadmap to get there is a different story. It's way easier to focus on some goal that you want to hit rather than to focus on the day-to-day process and the daily work you're going to put in to make sure that you get there. So when it comes to like the why behind all this, it's because nothing has the ability to fundamentally change your life over the long run like changing what you do every single day. We all know that we are our choices. So when you see somebody who has a fantastic body, it's because they're living off of the daily choices they made over the last 10 years. If you see someone that has a fantastic family, it's because they're living off of the choices they made the last 10 years. If you see someone financially fit, it's because they're living off of the choices that they made the last 10 years. If you see someone who's overweight, it's because they're living off of the choices they made the last 10 years. Like, it applies to everything. What you see is simply the result of daily choices, whether you're aware of those choices or not. Most of my track career, like building up to when I made the Olympics, I had habits and I was not aware of them at all, good and bad ones. Just completely unaware of the things I did daily to be really good at the sport. Had no idea. But I also did some things that, I could have changed that would have helped me to see even more success within the sport. So after going through mission, goals, and habits and helping you see the picture, another building block to the whole course is habit stacking versus just a normal habit loop, and making sure that you understand what a habit loop is. So if you ever read the book, The Power of Habit, that book really focuses on the habit loop. But habit stacking is what I believe is an easier way to remember how to build habits. And the formula that I personally teach is you stack, you start, you schedule, and you show up. So you start by stacking, by making sure that you know what's your stack for the day. What are the things that you want to make sure that you get done? And then you have to start in the morning. And the reason why you start in the morning is because that is the time that you know that you can control what happens next. You see, there's so many, and there's so many other habits that you might have that you think that are your core habits. Like, someone might say, okay, I drink coffee every day. But the problem is, even if there's one day you don't drink coffee, which might be, very rare for you, it still will mess up your whole habit stack. But the one thing you're probably going to do every day is wake up. And if you don't wake up, you don't have to worry about habits anyway. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to set time in your day. You're going to block time in your day so that there's time carved out to get those habits done. And then the last thing, you got to make sure that you're showing up for those habits. We've talked about this in different episodes. So if you want to learn more about the system specifically, you can just go back into the podcast and listen to it. But one of the things that I talk about throughout each episode, but I don't think I focus on this in any one podcast episode, but I really dive in on this in the course, is the long-term mindset. And what I'm getting at there is that this is not something that the course is great because it's helping you to see what it requires to change over the next decade of your life. We're in a new decade, with 2020. We're trying to set your life up so that it's beautiful in 2030. Now, that doesn't mean it can't happen quicker than that. Of course it can. You will see a lot of successes way before that. But the focus is long term. This isn't a quick hit oh, get rich quick, or no, this is for people who really want sustainable success, that they want to have changes that last for a long time. And then we started to get into some of the more advanced stuff, which is identity, environment, cues, and discipline. And like, here's the thing. When it comes to identity and environment, I don't care how many times you listen to the podcast, it never gets old going over those things. Because if you don't have the environment right and you don't understand how you see yourself and how that plays into your habits, nothing else matters. And you can always use more reminders. I need reminders on how important that is. Then when it comes to cues, it's just watching out for things that are triggering different behaviors and being aware of them and how to use those to your advantage. And then the last one, discipline. And this is what it's really all about, is how do you become the type of person that is disciplined? Because discipline builds confidence. When you see someone who's like uberly confident, like think about Kobe Bryant in his prime. Look, man, the discipline this guy had was sickening. It was sickening. If you're not disciplined, but you seem confident, really you're overconfident. And a lot of times you're just scared. You're putting up a facade. But true confidence comes from the preparation that discipline brings into your life. So there's a whole section just on making sure we get that right, getting that discipline and some of those advanced habit stacking ideas down. And then there's a smaller section on like bad habits. And the bad habits are just that. It's like how to get, like a lot of times what I focus on is helping you to build good habits, but sometimes you just have bad habits that you want to get rid of, aka watching porn, drinking, those type of things. How to make sure that we're snuffing those things out. And then how do we make these habits sticky? The sticky aspect is huge, right? Because you don't want to just start doing something and then as soon as you get bored of it, you cut it out of your life. We want to make sure, again, this is a 10-year project. We're sustaining this over the long run. And then one of the last courses that I think is another building block is just pointing out some common mistakes that people end up making on this journey. So you may have gotten started, things are going well, or things aren't going well. And what do people do in these situations that kind of wipe out all the work that has been put in over the months, years, or whatever the case may be? So that's what it is right there. If you want to check it out, go to course.thehabitstacker.com. That's course.thehabitstacker.com. Would love to get you in the course. And listen, this podcast is always going to be a great resource. I'm always going to come on here and drop everything I've got. But here's the thing. The course just makes it more real. And here's one thing I do know. Right now, we have an abundance of free information. Like you have the blogs, podcast, like, you have tons of stuff. Even just within what I offer, I have, this podcast, blog, and the app is free. But one thing I know is that when people invest, when you actually have some money on the line, you're way more likely to go all in, right? It's one thing when you're just doing something and it's free and it doesn't cost you nothing. But when you start to feel the cost of it, the weight of being all in, you're way more likely to take it serious and step what you are doing up into the next level. So make sure you get started. Go to course.thehabitstacker.com. Make sure you get started. Peace.